Gotta work. Go live. Boom, there we go. We are live. We are live. We are live. We are very close on this camera right here. Team, what is happening?
What's going on, team?
It is Friday. That means one thing and one thing only. It is time for Crucible TV.
Let's go.
That's right, Crucible TV, and we are fired up. Again, this week, we are starting a new series. We finished up our Foundations program last week, our Foundation series last week, and this week we are diving into a brand new series, right? So it's not just going to be a one-off, just see what we come up with. No, it's going to be a brand new series. This one we are calling Learning in the Library. Learning in the library. Now, what the heck do I mean by learning in the library? See, they say leaders are readers. And
So
what I found, hold on.
talking about Apple Music
No, hold
library.
on. Not the Apple Music. Well, it could be because there's books on there. But leaders are readers. There's a lot of information. There's a lot of wisdom in books, right? But how many of us are reading? How many of us, this guy over here is, how many of us are taking the time to go in and get the wisdom from these books? How many of us are going in and taking the best sources of information and wisdom and saying, you know what, I'm going to use this information to get myself ahead. Like, I've got all these questions, I've got all these thoughts, I want to know how to do this. But how many of us take the time to do it? What is it? A lot of times, what do we fill our heads with instead? Well, whatever the latest TikTok trend, dance move, this. Jesse's really good at all the TikTok dances, right? He spends a lot of time studying all the TikTok dances. No, not true.
Spend some more time reading it.
That's
than
right.
TikTok.
More time reading, less time TikToking and Facebooking and all that. But think about it. We talk about all the time with we are what we fill ourselves with, right? We got to fill ourselves with the good stuff. But where is the good stuff? More times than not, we're not going to the sources of the right information. We're not going and filling our head with the good stuff. Instead, we're filling ourselves with just the junk. We're filling ourselves with whatever society wants us to have in mind, or the news, or the latest catch on the news spin cycle, whatever it is, right? I'm going to say that's probably not the best bet. I'm going to say that's not the best idea for choosing what we're filling ourselves with.
Yeah, and it's a lot like, you talk about nutrition and your diet, your food diet. Well, it's also the diet of what you're filling your brain up with, and if you can have all the positive quotes in the world, but if you on your fridge that you fill yourself up with, but if you're spending your whole day filling it up with bad stuff, it's those positive quotes probably aren't going to mean a whole lot, and it's like the same thing. I could eat a whole giant pizza and then eat an apple words, but I'm probably not getting the nutrition from that apple after eating that giant pizza. So
that giant pizza. So that is what we're diving into today. Where do we start? We're going into the library. We're going into the Crucible Library today. We're going into the Crucible Library because there's so many books out there. We're talking about books. We're talking about learning. There's so many places to get this information. Where the heck do we start, right? You could go into a library and there's thousands upon thousands of books. Which ones do I read? So that is going to be what this next series from us is. We're calling it Learning in the Library. We're going to dive into our favorite books and some of the different pillars that we talk about, whether it be physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, relationally. We're going to start talking about our favorite books in a lot of those different pillar areas. So that way, if it's one of those areas you're saying, man, I need to get filled up on, you have a place to start, right? You might love the book, you might not like it, whatever it is, but these are some of our favorite books that we say, you know what, we go back to these books quite often to fill ourselves, to make sure that foundation is set. So without further ado, we are gonna get right into our very first book, and we're just gonna cover one book a day. We're gonna give you kind of like a quick background on the book, kind of some of our favorite parts about the book, why we like the book, and hopefully that spurs you to either download it on Audible or to go out and purchase the book, or at least to start spinning that wheel around in your head that says, you know what, I'm going to start being specific about what I put into my mind rather than just whatever's happening. So Nick, Tucker, I see you hopping on here. Rob, Haley, how you all doing? Hopefully you all are doing well.
Appreciate your hurricane, Rob.
Let's go, baby. So here we go. Book number one. Today we're talking about, and this was a a transformational book in my life. This is one of my favorite books. It's one of my go-to books that I like to read at least once a year. I try to read this thing once a year. I try to go back to it. I highlight it. Actually, all the copies of it that I have, I always have to buy a new copy because I read it, and every time I read it, I give a copy away because it's such a good book. So every time I want to read it, I actually have to go rebuy it. But it's that good that I like giving it away to people. So it is by Mark Batterson. Write that down, Mark Batterson. And it's called Chase the Lion. Chase the Lion by Mark Batterson. Now, this is actually, I guess, the second book of a series that he has but the idea behind this book, the idea behind this whole book, Chase the Lion, it's about chasing dreams, about chasing not just like any ordinary dream. It's talking about chasing big dreams, right? That's the lion, right? That's the lion. And then right on the front cover of this book, it says, if your dream doesn't scare you, it's not big enough. If your dream doesn't scare you, it's not big enough. And I love that concept, right? I love that concept. How many times, Jesse, have you said, man, I'm dreaming big, but it doesn't motivate you, right? Like the goal doesn't get you up in the morning. It doesn't fire you up. It doesn't make you a little bit nervous about like, oh man, I don't know how to do this. I don't know if I don't know. We're just comfortable, right? We're just comfortable with this goal. We're comfortable with the dream. We're comfortable with what I want to achieve. I'm comfortable with the weights that I'm lifting. Like, oh, I know I can do that. Well, the whole idea behind this book is, well, that's not where God wants you to be. God doesn't want you to be in that comfort zone. We talk about it all the time, cherish the challenge. We're talking about, when do we grow? We grow in the challenge. We grow in the adversity. We grow in all those areas. So that's what this book is all about. Hey, let's get out of that comfort zone and let's start chasing dreams, chasing lions, as what they start talking about. And that's going to help you become the person you're designed to be. So the book, based on 2 Samuel, I think 2 Samuel verse 22, is that right? 2:23. 2 Samuel 23, right? And he's talking about a character in the Bible called Benaiah. Right? Now this guy, he was one of King David's mighty men. And it's crazy because if you read through the chapter, he's kind of like an afterthought. Not an afterthought, but he's just kind of like a single line in this chapter where they're talking about all these great mighty men, right, that were around King David. And then they start describing him, Benaiah, and all they say is, and he was a mighty man and he chased a lion into a snowy pit and killed it. And then they go on. But the whole book kind of pauses you and says, wait, hold up. Say that again?
A snowy pit.
But even before that.
Chases a lion.
Wait, he chased a what?
A lion.
Okay, Jesse, if you see a lion, hold on. If you see a lion, what are you going to do? Are you going to run after it?
I'd probably not run after that lion, man.
What are you going to do? What are you going to do?
I'd probably freak out. Run away, maybe be immobilized by fear. I'd run away.
He running away. That's what any normal person would do, right? Normal person would say, I see a lion, I'm going the opposite way. But what does this guy do? He stops. He says, I think it's a good idea to chase after that thing. I'm going to chase after that 500-pound lion that can rip me to shreds, right? And there was something inside of Benaiah there that the lion saw that said, actually, I think I'm going to be the one to run away, right? Then it's a snowy day. Footing isn't good. I don't know if y'all been out in the snow lately, but it's slippery. It's cold. It's not good, right?
Frozen tundra.
Frozen tundra, Green Bay, right? What happens? This lion goes down into a pit. It's trapped in a pit. Now, if it's me, I'm saying good. I'm safe. A, I don't know what I'm doing chasing a lion. But B, once it's trapped, I'm going to be like, okay, cool, I'm safe. You do you, lion, I'll go my way. No, what does this guy do? He goes down into the pit and he kills this lion. Now, this is back in the day. They didn't have guns. They had swords. They had bare hands. It wasn't like just something like, from a distance. So he jumped down there in there with this lion and killed it. Now, to me, that's pretty remarkable.
Pretty courageous.
That's pretty courageous. That's pretty remarkable. And that's was kind of the pivot point for some of the things that he was able to do in his life, right? Later on in his life, he was able to become, I think he was like I don't even remember what the technical term was, but he was like the big daddy, commander-in-chief of the army, right? Big deal, a big deal. But the whole idea of this book, and this, I don't want to spoil the book, but I want to pique your interest on this book is, what are those 500-pound lions
in your life right now
that you're chasing, right? Not that maybe there's 500-pound lions out there that we're running away from. We're seeing it. We have this idea pop in our head. We've been praying about it, saying, ooh, I want to do something big. And we have something pop up, and then we go running away from it. Instead, what are those 500-pound lions? What are those 500-pound dreams that we can start chasing? That might be a little scary. That might be a little unsettling. That might get you into the spot that says, you know what? I don't know how to do this. Right? I don't know how to do this. I can't do this on my own. And that's one of the whole points, right? Benaniah couldn't just go and kill this lion on his own. He needed to have God by his side for that, right? We're designed to be the same way, right? We all have a big goal. We have a big mission, a big purpose. Each and every one of us, each and every one of you has a big purpose in your life. And I guarantee it's not meant to be done all by yourself. So, what are those things that get you fired up? What are those things that get you thinking big? What are those things that maybe when you're laying in bed at night, it's like, man, that'd be pretty daggone cool to do.
There's common themes.
Yeah, like I don't know, I don't know how to do it, but daggone, that'd be pretty daggone cool.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can do that. Well, maybe that's that 500-pound lion. Maybe that's on your heart because that's part of the purpose that God has on your life. Maybe you're thinking about, for me, was starting a gym, right? This is a small stepping stone of the big 500-pound lion dream that I have, right? But this is on the way that we're chasing. When I first started the gym, I had no idea what I was doing. Guess what? There's still some times that I walk around and I'm like, I don't know what the heck I'm doing, right? And I hope nobody finds out, right? But that's what happens as you continually push, as you continually try to do new things. You're going to be in an area where I don't know how to do this. But that's when you're learning. That's when you're growing. And we wouldn't be making the impact here at Crucible if we were just trying to stay comfortable, if we were just happy staying in the original location we were in, back in the back corner of another business, right? We wouldn't be making the impact that we're making right now. And this spot that we stepped into here in 2018 was the biggest, scariest, had the double revenue just to make the rent, right? Big, scary, all those things. Don't know how we're going to do it, but let's go. That's part of the chase the lion. That's part of that dream and saying, you know what, I don't know how it's going to happen, but we're going to make it happen. We're going to find a way. Do you have any lions that you're chasing, Jesse? I threw that on you. He didn't know that was coming.
That's fine, man. Throw it on.
He's ready for it. Snapping bands.
I think, in a way, maybe it's not a 500-pound line, but there's some times, and if you can relate to this, where if you feel a little overwhelmed, you feel like, man, I'm in way over my head with something, because I've had those moments for sure. You know, whether it's starting a course and juggling a bunch of different things and roles and responsibilities in the gym and things like that. And it's like, man, this is a lot of open tabs right now in my brain, you know. That's probably not a 500-pound line, but it's a line nonetheless. But in a way, you know, I'm just listening to Coach talk right here. It's like, well, good. You know, that means I'm growing. That means I'm getting outside that comfort zone. I'm doing things I'm not necessarily used to. You know, being out here on the coaching floor, that's something that's inside my comfort zone. But doing some of the stuff on the computer screen, that's something that's not necessarily in my comfort zone. You know what I mean? So it's like, all right, good. And you know, there's a lot of times where people, you know, they come into the gym, they might feel overwhelmed, or I talk to folks who are overwhelmed, but I gotta tell you, give yourself a pat on the back, because if you're overwhelmed a little bit, if you are like, man, I don't know if I can do this, that could be a sign to keep going. Because if it's anything like this book is saying, right? If it doesn't scare you, it's not big enough. If it doesn't make you feel overwhelmed, it's not big enough. So, you know, man, it's maybe it's not a 500-pound line, Coach, but I guess there's some lines I'm chasing where I'm overwhelmed in, and so yeah.
I love it. But that's exactly what it is. So that's what we want to challenge you guys to do. And that's why we wanted to bring this book to you first and foremost, because it aligns so well with Crucible, with this mindset of cherishing the challenge, with this mindset of, you know what, I'm not going to settle for ordinary. Right? What's the ordinary response? The ordinary response is to see it and run. It's hard, so I'm going to see it and I'm going to run. I'm going to the opposite way. That's not what Crucible is all about, right? That's not what Cherish the Challenge is all about. That's not what Chase the Lion is all about, right? So that's why we wanted to bring this book to you first and foremost. Don't settle for ordinary. Don't settle for average. If you're tuning in right now, if you follow Crucible, if you're a part of Crucible, you already get that. That is why you're here, is because you don't want to just check the box. You don't want to just show up and say, hey, I did it. No, you are shooting for something bigger than where you are right now. And that might be your 500-pound lion. It might be getting better grades. It might be playing collegiate ball. It might be playing professional ball. Who knows what it is, right?
And maybe that 500-pound line is not knowing what that 500-pound line is, and that scares you. And that's the most scary thing, that could be your 500-pound line right there, that you have no idea what it is, and that's that uncertainty can be like, man, I don't know. So,
but the step after that is it takes taking the time to dig in and go, right? It takes taking the time to dig in and go. So, guys, that is what we got bringing to you today. We're starting, like I said, Series 1 on our Learning in the Library series. Chase the Lion by Mark Batterson. We're going to be back next week with another book. So if you start to read any of these books, if you've read any of these books,